Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, Nestle, stars, peasants, vassals, males, Catholics, Republicans, liquor store owners. I'm a useful idiot, and how about that catchy title? And what I'm doing again today is another intellectual exercise, because I've really enjoyed doing these kind of videos, and I'm doing another one today. So you see a headline like that, and it strikes you as pretty unusual, I would hope, because it is an unusual headline. I've never seen one like it. White male Catholic registered Republican robs liquor store. And of course, what you should be thinking when you read that is, why do they bother telling us all that other stuff about him? It's simple enough. A man robbed a liquor store. And that is exactly my point, because we need to watch this subtle version of propaganda. And it's really important, because the powers that be know that a lot of people in the world, and people in America, base all their opinions on what's going on in the world on headlines. Everything they think they need to know about a story is in the headline. And that's how public opinion is formed. And that's why these bylines and these headlines are very important. And the media outlets certainly know how important they are. So it's very conscious. Don't ever think that a headline is an accident at all. I mean, look at my headlines. There's certainly no accident. And what this points out, and I'll show you all these other examples, what this points out is that there's an agenda even in the simplest deliveries, and that is media headlines. So we're used to seeing headlines that say, black male robbed liquor store. Black male does this. Black male does that. So once I point out the original premise, of course, you realize, well, they could have just said a male robbed a liquor store. They don't have to say a black male. But that's part of the political agenda of that headline. So what we have is all these kind of headlines, and then it ends up creating a stereotype and a mythology. And granted, statistics are there showing that there's a lot of urban youth crime involving black individuals, certainly. But certainly the issue is far more complex than that. Certainly far more complex than these simple headlines. Another one we get all the time is drug-related crime. And of course, most of us know that pot smokers are not very motivated. They're not really going to do any crimes or hurt anybody. The worst thing they might do is, if they don't have any money, maybe they'll knock over a candy bar machine to get the change out so they can get some munchies, if not for the munchies themselves. But once again, there's an agenda. It's the anti-drug agenda, the drug war agenda, coloring everything as if all this stuff happens because of drug-related crimes. And of course, that's an open-ended terminology, drug-related crimes. It can be anything. Maybe he's got a drug habit that he needs to feed, or maybe he's on drugs when he does something, or who knows. But we do know one thing. When they say drug-related crimes, they're not talking about pharmaceuticals. How come we never see headlines that say pharmaceutical-related crime? But part of the problem with that is because every crazy fucking thing that happens in this country would have some connection with pharmaceutical drugs, probably. But we're not going to see any headlines anytime soon that say pharmaceutical-related incident, pharmaceutical-related crime. We're not going to see any white male Catholic registered Republican robs liquor store signs. And I thought about this recently because, of course, we have Mr. Snowden, the NSA whistleblower. One of the things they like to point out right away is that he's a Ron Paul supporter, a libertarian. So here we go with the political agenda, trying to say that, oh boy, these libertarians and Ron Paul supporters are wacko birds and want to subvert America and all that kind of horseshit. But that's how that goes. So I'm just trying to point out some of the more subtle ways. Most people can spot that, but we need to spot the ones in the headlines too. Another recent one, of course, is all the Muslim stories. A Muslim man shoots neighbor. Muslim man burns church. Muslim man does this. Muslims rampage. It just doesn't really have that much to do whether they're Muslims or not. They're nuts. They're criminals. And perhaps they're religious zealots, but it doesn't really have that much to do with Islam per se or Muslims. It's almost incidental, and that's been really interesting for me to think about recently, because I've started thinking about the difference between Muslims and jihadis and just your garden variety thugs who happen to embrace a certain religion. But that's going to be a topic for another day. I just wanted to talk about the subtleties of headlines and the fact that there's so many people on YouTube that use these same methods. And I brought that up in my video about YouTube pundits dooming down America. And that's part of their shtick. They use that same method that mainstream media does to malign a certain group, making connections that don't necessarily need to be made, and spreading that same sort of mainstream media sort of fear-mongering, stereotyping, racism, and all the rest. But anyway, that's just a little pointer about headlines and subtle propaganda and the way that public opinion can be manipulated through a simple device, just as a sentence over an article in a newspaper, magazine, or a television program. And pretty subtle. So anyway, in the meantime, let's keep our eyes out. Maybe one day we will see a headline that says, white male Catholic registered Republican robs a liquor store. Because frankly, I would find that a pretty interesting article, and I'd read it. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.